Well, yesterday, a Louisiana Senate committee literally killed a bill to protect children from gender procedures in that state. And it's amazing. Republicans have the majority in the committee, but a Republican state senator, Fred Mills, voted with Democrats as the swing and deciding vote against this proposed law to protect children from sterilization and mutilation. And it's just amazing to me how something like this could happen. Well, joining me now to discuss this and how we can help is Gene Mills. He's the president of the Louisiana Family Forum. Gene, welcome back to Washington Watch. It's an honor to have you, sir.
It's good to be with you, Jody. Thank you for all the good work you do in FRC as well.
Well, thank you so much. Well, listen, let's first kind of set the record straight on this bill. I want to play to begin with what a pediatric psychologist, Dr. Clifton Mixon, actually said about this bill and get your reaction to it. Play clip 5, please.
We do not get to just remove health care for one vulnerable population. That is discrimination, and this bill was about discrimination. It was not about protecting kids.
This bill was not about protecting kids, really. Respond. Give us the truth about this.
Well, that was the essence of the bill. It's to stop harming children. And basically, it doesn't prohibit procedures. It just simply says a child's not at an age of consent where they can provide necessary medically informed consent to do a surgery or to begin hormonal procedures that could be permanent or irreversible and alter their trajectory for the rest of their lives. And an impeccable case was made by all in testimony, the attorneys. We had allied attorney from Alliance Defending Freedom, Matt Sharp. We had physicians from Louisiana. We had moms whose children had experienced transition, and we had detransitioners. And I got to tell you, the case was compelling. When I say this is the closest thing to an impeccable hearing I've ever attended in the 40 years or so that I've been doing this, it is phenomenally correct. They handed it off in a phenomenal manner. And the only thing that was a surprise was the final vote.
Yeah, it was a surprise to all of us, Gene. It really was. And I'm really glad the way you painted the picture of what took place, because I have heard the same. We have heard the same of the just compelling testimonies, many tragic personal stories of regret for going down that path, and just an overwhelming sense of medical evidence. And yet the Senate, controlled by Republicans, still killed this. And is it true? I understand that the governor in Louisiana carries a pretty big stick across the board, economically and otherwise. Was there some pressure from Governor John Bel Edwards to prevent this bill from coming out of committee?
Absolutely. And to be fair, that's not new with John Bel. That's been Louisiana politics since Huey Long and beyond. We're trying to break those old structures where your governor determines who your Speaker of the House is going to be, who your Senate President is going to be, which appropriation measures are going to handle drainage issues or roads and bridges. And that's how they hold members hostage. And in this case, John Bel, in an exit from the Louisiana politics scene, because he's term limited, this is his final hurrah, just simply didn't want this bill on his desk. And we are told he doubled down. The members who are Democrats who had given us commitments that they were going to vote with us flipped at the final hour. And surprisingly, the chairman did as well. Wow.
Well, let's talk about this. I mean, it seems, and it is, I mean, it's an enormous disappointment. Many of us were watching that of course, nothing is ever done until it's across the finish line. I get that, but there was great hope with this. So is there a way for the state Senate there to correct it at this point, or is all the water under the bridge and this thing totally behind us?
Well, it's difficult because there's many procedures that have to be followed, and some of those are technical and some haven't been implemented in some time. But the Senate has every right under its code 13 section 1 to simply suspend the rules, pull this bill out of the calendar and out of order, and command that the committee place the bill before the legislature or before the state Senate. Now, it can do it without recommendation. It can do it with a negative recommendation, or it could do it favorably. Right now, that's up to the procedural motion. There is the vote on the Senate floor. The question is, And ironically, here's the nuance that doesn't escape the fact that this is still Louisiana. The parliamentarian who will rule on that motion happens to be the chairman who was the deciding vote that voted it down, Fred Mills.
Oh, wow. Well, obviously that makes it a much more difficult hurdle to overcome. But has anyone yet made the motion?
Or a simple conflict of interest.
Right. Well, the great point there. I mean, someone ought to bring that to a point of order that there's a definite conflict of interest there. Have either of those motions been presented, either a conflict of interest or just the motion to suspend the rules and get a floor vote?
We've done it once before, some 20 years ago. It's a rather rare motion. Most cannot remember that. Some say, and including the parliamentarian may not recall it, but if they go back in the archives, they will find that it has been played. It is an approved motion. It's got to gain the support of the body, and it requires 20 simple votes of the members present, regardless of how many are there. Right now, they're giving their retirement speeches. As we speak, the senator in question, Fred Mills, who happens to be a friend and an ally on many pro-life votes, and who explained his vote this way. He simply said, I don't believe we ought to get between the patient-doctor relationship. I said, well, with regard to that, Senator Mills, you voted on a number of pro-life bills that did exactly that. And you introduced the medical marijuana scheme, which deploys the strategy and the context with which that can occur. So that was simply a political answer. It can be done.
All right, Gene, listen, we've only got about a minute left here, actually less than that. So we've got to get some momentum, some heat, if you will, to get this on the floor. What can people do? Who can they contact to put some pressure on their senators?
Well, no one person needs to be picked out, but we are generating our efforts toward the Senate President, Paige Cortez, and the members of the entire body, the Louisiana Senate. They can go through our website, louisianafamilyforum.org, or if you're in the state of Louisiana, you can contact the Senate switchboard at 225-342-2040 and ask, based upon your zip code, to get a message to your state senator, and they will relay that message directly.
Gene, thank you so much for joining us. We'll put that number on the website, so if anyone missed it, they can get it. Thanks for joining us.